Hello. Hi. Great to have you join us this Friday. My name is Julie Hirschberg, the owner, founder of Reactive Therapy and Wellness in the Los Angeles area, and joining you today to share some really cool stuff that we talked about last night in our education group called Brain Bites. This is a group of mentoring and support and learning with other therapists, physical therapists, occupational therapists, chiropractors. It's a really awesome group. And we had one of our bonus sessions last night with the amazing Rob Landell. And if this is not somebody that you've heard of or met, he is a professor at USC. So I work with him there. But I think one of the ways that I really got learning from Rob was through a lot of the talks and lectures and teachings that he does in the world of cervicogenic dizziness. So this is a really hot topic. It's a hot topic in concussion as well. So we talked a lot about that. So we did a lot last night. So I'm not going to be able to go through all of it, but I want to just talk really briefly on what cervicogenic dizziness is. And relate that to concussion. And particularly what we talked about last night was how it is so highly possible to have this post-concussion. Some key points of differential diagnosis. So Rob made a pie chart, and I love pie charts. So we have this. And then where you might start with interventions, especially in a case with overlapping diagnoses, which is often the case in somebody post-concussion. So let's start with definitions. What is cervicogenic dizziness? So this is defined as the presence of dizziness, imbalance, or unsteadiness that's related to movements or positions of the cervical spine, or that occurs with a stiff and painful neck. It really is one of those diagnoses that you exclude other causes of dizziness, because of course you can get neck stiffness if you just had BPPV or a vestibular hypofunction. So there's not like a single test that confirms that it's cervicogenic. It's a process of ruling out other things and doing some tests that rule it in, which, by the way, on Wednesday in our Instagram group, I went through the joint position error test and some modifications for it, by the way, to use in post-concussion and dystonia. So you can catch that video, by the way. We started putting our Wednesday videos in our Friday emails. So if you want to get all of the neuro goodness on Fridays, you'll get the recording of this video, you'll get the recording of our Instagram videos, and all of the links and articles and resources. So I put all of those in our Friday email, so you can check that out if you're interested in the joint position error piece. So that's the definition. What do we typically see? And so Rob talked about this too. I think one of the biggest things is in the way the person describes symptoms. So not a spinning vertigo, but typically more lightheaded or feeling unsteady or a little spacey or woozy, or I feel off, even imbalance, and not spinning or bouncing type of movement, or that your visual field is bouncing. You don't hear that in cervicogenic dizziness. Another thing that I really love that Rob talked about was an analogy for cervicogenic dizziness. And he used the ankle sprain. And I think if you've seen Rob talk on these topics, he uses this a lot. And I really love this. If you've ever had an ankle sprain, you know that one of the things that happens is that it's hard to tell where your foot is in space. Like moving it up and down, it feels really difficult to tell where it is. And that's your ankle proprioception, right? So the same thing can happen with an injury to the neck, which we'll talk about in concussion, by the way, but you can have that same loss of proprioception at the joints in your neck through the spindles, the muscle spindles in the muscles of your neck. And what happens is then you can get a mismatch. Now, in the ankle, all we have is the proprioception. We don't have eyes and ears in our ankle to tell us where we are in space. But in the neck, we have eyes and ears to, it's redundant to tell us where our head is in space because it's that important to know. So we have the sensory information coming from our neck. We have our eyes and ears. When they all match up, we're gelling. We're feeling good. If one of those is off, so if the neck is off, the neck is telling the brain one thing and the eyes and ears are telling them another, and that's enough to make us feel really woozy. I love that the way he described it and made it really easy and a good way to explain it to people. So that's why I'm sharing it with you. And this led him into talking about why this can be so common post-concussion. So, by the way, if you didn't know, Rob was a part of the group that wrote the clinical practice guidelines for post-concussion and mild traumatic brain injury. It was in the Journal of Orthopedics and Sports Physical Therapy in 2020. Link coming your way, by the way. I'll put it in the comments here right now. And it will also be in our newsletter coming out on Fridays. So there's the link. Great resource for sure if you work with people with concussion. So anyhow, why is it, and not even why, but like how is it highly possible that if you've had a head injury, you likely also have some sort of neck issue, and that could be contributing to the dizziness. So just thinking about the biomechanical piece of it. So they've done biomechanical studies that show that it only takes about 4.5 Gs, so acceleration at the neck, to cause injury to it. So not a whole lot. Our necks are very sensitive. In a concussion, it's typically found that that injury is bringing 100 Gs to the head. And where is the head connected but through the neck, right? So there is a high likelihood when somebody experiences a concussion, whether that's in a car accident or a sports injury, or what have you, that they're also getting some of those acceleration forces at the neck and potentially causing injury and potentially causing cervicogenic dizziness. So this is one of the key parts to decipher through, right? So to really sort through the dizziness coming through the vestibular system, the vision, somatosensation through the neck. And luckily as therapists, we have the tools to test that out. One of the things that I really love in the differential diagnosis is to start to figure that out and sort through the causes of dizziness. And Rob, I loved, because one of my favorite things is a pie chart, right? And he put together one. So I wanted to share it with you. I'm just pulling it up here to look at what might be the underlying cause of the dizziness. And certainly the joint proprioception could be part of that, right? So that would be coming from the cervical spine, and that would be something that we would have to look at. Other things that we might think about in this pie chart are sensory integration and central integration of the systems. This is something that we typically see with 3PD. We want to rule out peripheral involvement, so BPPV or vestibular hypofunction, and looking specifically at what might be causing that. Is it central disorders like in the cerebellum, right? So in traumatic brain injury and stroke, that's something that we would look at. Is it migraine? Is it cervical? So this is like a whole differential that we would be sorting through to really understand what the underlying issues are. And we can't forget about the autonomic nervous system. We've been talking about this a lot over the last few weeks, and we can look at the autonomic nervous system as well in some of those contextual factors. So it was really nice. I really loved Rob taking us through this pie chart, because often it's not just one, it's multiple pieces that might be contributing to dizziness, especially post concussion. So, so that was just another great little neuro nugget from last night, is those keys to differential diagnoses. Okay, and then finally, where might you start intervention in a case with a lot of overlapping pieces? And what was really nice in our Brain Bites group, we have people submit questions, people ask questions live. It's really awesome discussion. And somebody submitted a case that did have multiple pieces and even asked, like, where should we start? And I think Rob really gave some great advice. Is you want to start in a place that is going to provide some relief. So for some people that might be autonomic, for example. Two, start in a place that might take a little longer to improve. So this might include the neck, because we know we can change neck motor control maybe rather quickly, but to make strength changes to the neck, that's going to take some time. That's going to take 6 weeks plus. And often if we're post concussion, even longer to build some of that strength. So, so his advice was, first, we got to check it. We got to look at the neck, right? And then we need to start addressing it. And if there are some strength changes and those are going to take a long time, we need to start that exercise progression. Isometrics, moving into active range of motion, doing it in different planes and different positions. He went through a lot of great ideas for some great neck exercises here, which I'm excited to do more about. Some of it is like the basics of therapy, but it is also how we do it and how we progress it. And I think it takes a skilled therapist to really do that, which all of you are. So so anyway, that's where to start. Start with screening the neck, looking at it as a contributor, and if there's strength deficits there, start with some of those, because those are going to take a long time, and layer on the other pieces for sure. Absolutely. So I am so thankful to have great mentors, great people like Rob Lindell to be able to learn from. And for our whole group, we had like 50 people on last night to be able to learn and share and ask great questions. So that was awesome. And I want to tell you, by the way, because we dove into a lot of dizziness as a group at Re+active, and in our practice and in our Brain Bites group. We are actually going to host a one-day course taking a different look at dizziness, and it's called A Positive Spin on Dizziness. That's coming up in August, and our instructors, Catherine and Jamie, are going to do a free webinar for us, which I'm so excited about. It's called the Otolith, Don't You Forget About Me, like a good old Breakfast Club song. And anyway, be on the lookout. That free webinar is coming up at the beginning of June. And it's going to be a little Friday night happy hour talking about the otolith, the underlooked part of some of our look into dizziness. So stay tuned. That is coming up. I'm really excited. And another opportunity just to learn and grow with us. So thank you so much for being a part of our community. And I will see you next week.